Hello, everyone, and I didn't say the word back. Welcome back to your favorite podcast, or welcome to, if this is your first episode with us. I'm Kelee.
I'm Rebecca.
You guys, we're so excited about our episode today. We are having, I have to spill the beans. We already recorded with her. I'm like, there's no way I can just act like we didn't already meet her because she's so cool.
Yes.
And we just had the best time with her.
We did.
Today, we're talking with Dr. Frankie Bashan, who is a renowned relationship coach and dating expert. As a licensed clinical psychologist with over 2 decades of experience, Dr. Frankie specializes in working with both couples and individuals. Her extensive training includes a focus on trauma, enabling her to provide comprehensive support and guidance in her practice. She possesses a unique combination of formal training, innate emotional intelligence, and communication skills that allow her to help couples struggling with relationship issues of all kinds. That is so true. After talking with her, I was like, oh my God, you are incredible.
Yes, so we talked to her about dating and relationship scenarios and got her takes on them, and we just felt so enlightened.
I actually was like, I feel like enlightened. I was like, I feel different now. Like, I feel so smart. I feel cool. I feel like I'm an expert.
Yes, I know. So that was really great.
Yeah. It was so cool. So we are just going to get right into it and keep our intro short. But we just wanted to say we were so excited because Dr. Frankie is our first official guest on our podcast. And I can't believe that, actually, because I thought our first guest was going to just be like one of our friends or like, I don't even know. Mm-hmm. But the fact that our first guest was Dr. Frankie is so cool. Like, yes. I can't believe that we got to talk with her and that she came on, but I'm so excited and thankful and glad that she came on. Just stay tuned because the things that she says are so enlightening and she's just an expert and it shows.
Yeah, and we're excited to have more conversations with her, with other guests, hopefully down the line. New era.
Yes.
2025, stop the internet is unstoppable.
You can't stop the internet. You can't stop the internet. Yes. Period. Okay, well, I hope you guys love it. We loved it. I feel like we're like giddy right now because she was just so amazing. And this conversation just really makes you think and made us think.
Yeah.
And I saw so many things from a different side while talking to her, which is so cool.
We love when that happens.
Yes.
Yes. We love nuanced situations.
Nuance. We hope you love it. And we are just going to get right into it. So here's Dr. Frankie. We were just talking about how you're our first guest. We're so excited to have you and thankful that you're here with us. And we're excited about our topic. We did a topic like this in the past. It was one of our first episodes ever, I think, right?
It was so. At least 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was so long ago. But we called it He Needs Some Milk, which was based off a Vine that went viral where I think like a little boy like fell off a skateboard or something. And the person recording was like, ooh, he needs some milk. And so that inspired me to come up with a topic, which is this person hopeless or do they just need some milk? Can they be helped? I think it was well received, that episode.
Yeah, intriguing.
Yeah. So we were thinking we would do that today and we're so excited to hear what you have to say.
So let me just make sure I understand because I'm not up in all the social media stuff, right? So I'm thinking that the association is that milk is comforting. And as a kid, you get your tall glass of milk and it feels like it's satiating. Is that right?
I would think that, or the fact that milk is stereotypically used to build strong bones and he like hurt himself. But honestly, I don't know because it's however anyone perceives this Vine.
Left for interpretation.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like many things.
Exactly.
It's all about perception.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But on our episode, we basically were saying whoever we thought could be helped and wasn't hopeless, maybe they just made a crazy decision or did something weird. But we got the vibe that they weren't a terrible person. Maybe they just made a mistake, or maybe they just need some help or therapy or whatever. That person just needs some milk.
I mean, we all should be working to strengthen ourselves, whether it be our psyche, ourselves physically, our neuroplasticity. I could go on and on. We need to be flexing all of those muscles, strengthening. Metaphor for life.
I love that. Should we just get into it?
Yeah, let's jump in. We have some fun topics.
I think so. That's my favorite. I love not even knowing what's coming.
Yes. Well, that's kind of how our show works in a way, because I typically pick a lot of the topics and the stories that we read, and then I just will read them to Rebecca, and she's just going in blind. And sometimes I feel like I'm at an advantage because I'm like, okay, well, I had time to think about all of this and think of my response. But I also think it's really cool to hear someone's first initial reaction to something and then like see how it might change while we talk through it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Cool. Okay, so I thought we could start with a few rapid fire situations and get your opinions. Well, I guess your responses don't have to be rapid fire, but these don't have too much detail to them. So you can tell us what you think of each of these things. So number one, once a cheater, always a cheater. Do you agree? Okay, you disagree.
Do you want me to expand on why? We are works in progress and humans make mistakes. And then sure, there's some people that are cheaters that'll be perpetual cheaters. But then there are some of us that maybe cheated early on in our lives when we were teenagers or in our early 20s. And we have grown and evolved and recognized the importance of valuing the relationships that we have and realize that they take effort, work, dedication, commitment. So we evolve. So I don't think once a cheater, always a cheater.
Cool. I agree with that too. I think that if I was in a relationship with someone and they admitted to me that they cheated on someone in the past and it ruined their relationship, I think I would be weary of that. But I would hope that I wouldn't judge completely just because of everything you just said. You know, people can get better and better themselves.
And I think it really depends on how they understand themselves about what got them into that situation. What responsibility are they taking? The accountability? Because that was a choice that they made. And is it something where they're like self-reflecting and they're really like, I learned from it and this is how I truly found myself in that situation? You can hear compassion and empathy and accountability. That's very different than somebody just flippantly saying, yeah, I mean, wasn't happy in the relationship and I just need to get my needs met elsewhere.
Yeah.
It's a great point. Okay, next one. We met a week ago and hit it off, and now they're talking about having kids together as soon as possible.
Oh my goodness. I think that means we're throwing caution to the wind and we are disabling our frontal lobe and we are engaging in very, very poor judgment and impulsive behavior. You two tell me, good idea or bad idea?
I think that's a little, I hate to use like these very trendy phrases, but love bomby.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a red flag a little bit.
Yeah, I also get the vibe that if someone were to say that, they might be getting caught up in the idea of a relationship rather than who you truly are. And I would definitely run for the hills, I think.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's not reality. That is fantasy. Fantasy is something that should be set for like, right? Something that is finite, an experience you engage in, you recognize is detached from reality. So my guess is that these people are thinking that they found the love of their lives and this is their end all be all. And they want to say yes to the opportunity, which is it's headed for a disaster. I can tell you right now.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, next up. You found a box of photos and memories from their exes in their bedroom. And we're going to go on the vibe of the person wasn't snooping. Maybe they asked them to grab something and you just happened to see it.
That as much as you are curious, which is human nature, and there's nothing abnormal about your desire to actually open that box and snoop, I suggest refraining and maintaining a good boundary as there is trust between you and your partner. And if you're curious about what's in that box, I would approach your partner and talk about it and say, I saw that there was a box. I want to respect your privacy, but I feel curious and I want to be open with you and share my curiosity and just put it out there and see if, maybe they'll offer to show you the box, or maybe that's just enough to have that conversation and hear that your partner's willing to show you what's in the box.
Yeah, that's a great way to say that, actually. So do you think it's strange for someone to have that?
No, I think, especially our earlier relationships, like I still have in my attic love letters from my high school boyfriend And even my college boyfriend that I was with for years, I still have, and I'm not interested in throwing him away. And I haven't even opened the box since that time that breakup, the box went in the attic. I haven't even looked at it, but do I have any desire to throw it out, or do I feel like I need to do that? No, I think it's normal. We care for these people. They hold a place in our heart, and those are memories that matter. And some of us get attached to things like that. And it doesn't hold much meaning beyond that time period. And why should we feel compelled to throw it away because we're afraid of how our next partner is going to feel because they know that we have a history? We all come with a history.
Right.
I agree with that too.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, good. I want to hear if you disagree.
As someone who keeps a memory box of like film pictures, Polaroids, all those things. Yeah, I can't get rid of those.
I think I have not like a slightly hypocritical view on it, but maybe I definitely think that I could keep them, and I would think to myself like, oh, I don't care about this person whatsoever. And then if I saw that my boyfriend had it, I'd be like, oh, like I know a little part of me would be like, oh, why do you have to have that? But I think I can be reasonable enough to know that he probably feels about that person the same way that I feel about my ex. And it's okay to hang on to a memory, like you said, Dr. Frankie. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. But I don't think it's weird. I think maybe if I was just starting to date someone and I found like a big box, I might be like, okay, I think I do have to bring this up just to make sure that they're actually over their ex. But
Yes.
Yeah, I would hope that the response that they gave me would be something that I could find trust in.
And it should deepen intimacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having the conversation. The other thing is, I want to give a little caveat is if this is a box that is sitting in their nightstand, it is very different than if it's sitting in their attic, right? Then you're like, wait, that's cause for concern, I think, and curiosity and conversation for sure. If it's in their bedroom, in their nightstand, that kind of thing. In close proximity, it's like they're holding on to it really close. Are they really over their ex? That'd be my question.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, and like, are they reading it before bed every night?
Yes. I do wonder what I would think if it was in their bedroom, maybe right under their bed or close by in a closet next to in their bedside drawer, and I was newly dating them. It takes time to build trust, obviously. I do wonder how I would perceive that if I started dating a stranger and I was just getting to know them, and maybe after like the 5th time hanging out with them, I went to their home and I saw that. I wonder if I would believe them. I guess it just depends. Yeah, like depends on the vibe. But I think that would be something that would upset me early on in dating, because it takes me so much time to be able to trust someone. And I don't know if that early on, if I would be able to trust the response that they gave me. But maybe I would give them more time to try to earn the trust. And then if I feel that the trust is earned, I could accept the answer they gave me. I definitely think I would struggle with it a tiny bit, though, early on in dating.
I think that's fair. And I think that if the person has a lot of amazing qualities and you're really, really digging them, then it would be worth hanging in, right? Longer to get a better sense of their character and if they're trustworthy. It's hard when you both don't have a lot of skin in the game in the beginning to have a conversation, to bring that topic up for discussion when you're only on your 5th date.
Right.
It just doesn't feel like there's enough time, commitment, right? Mm-hmm. So I think if they're great and there's a lot of good, then you hang in and you see.
Yeah. This is our last rapid fire one. It's been 8 to 10 years since they dated someone seriously.
Yeah. So that's a tough one, because I really think it's important to have, if you are somebody who wants to get into a long-term relationship and this person hasn't dated for 8 to 10 years, I'm not sure that they actually know what it takes to be in a relationship. There are very important skills. Number one, communication and like knowing how to argue fairly. I mean, a lot of us struggle with skills at all different ages, right? Where we could do better with conflict, with asking for what we need, with setting boundaries, with not engaging in codependent behavior, right? Like, this is all stuff I hear all like every day flavors of, and I'm helping, like I support people in just to be adults and do better in relationships. So I would just wonder if that person really has had enough opportunity in the last decade to work on themselves and to acquire relationship skills. Because when you're in relationship, you're really working on yourself because you're getting triggered. There are blind spots. So having really great relationships with family, for example, and friends, it's very different than having a romantic relationship with somebody, which is so much more intimate. It is so much more vulnerable, and they will trigger you more than anybody else in your life, likely. So that'd be my concern.
I think I resonate with that as well. I think I would be weary of that. I do think they could use some milk. They're not hopeless, but I would definitely tread lightly.
Yeah, I agree with that, I think.
And with that said, I think we shouldn't just toss them out. You know, I think that like I would look at why. I'd be curious about what has caused them to either make the decision to be single for 8 to 10 years, or is it that they just haven't met the right person? How do they talk about it? I'd be curious. I would want to learn more before I just toss the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, that is a great point.
Maybe they have spent the last 8 years on a journey of self-discovery, and it's been really intentional. Maybe they had a traumatic experience happen 8 years ago where a partner, like something really like traumatic, and they really wanted to work on themselves and heal from that experience, and they feel very ready, and they can really can talk about it, and they're walking the walk. They're not just talking the talk. So it would be something about like giving them a chance and observing, suspending your judgment, suspending your fear. Like, you can have your fear, but don't act on the fear. Give them a chance to show you if they have what it takes.
That's a great point. It kind of reminds me of that phrase that people use when they're trying to get a job, where it's like, you can't get a job unless you have experience, but you can't have experience unless you get a job. So I know for some people, I'm sure they really want to be in a relationship, but they just haven't found that person. And maybe they have standards that may be considered high, but it's just the standards they need to be healthy. And it takes a long time sometimes to cross paths with that person. And sometimes it's completely random. And it does feel sad to think about being judged for that by people that you're possibly going to start dating. So I would keep an open mind, but also tread lightly because of the things that Dr. Frankie, you said when you first started. But yeah, I do think not hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
No, not hopeless at all. And I'll tell you, as a matchmaker, I have certainly coordinated dates with my clients that have not been dating in years, or I've taken on matchmaking clients that haven't dated in years. So definitely not hopeless.
Yeah.
It's hopeful.
That's good. That's good to hear. Cool.
Mm-mm.
Okay, those were all the rapid fire ones. This was our first one with a little more detail. So all of these situations, I took them from other people's real situations, but I kind of worded them in a way where we can put ourselves into the situation. And in all of them, there's obviously multiple people involved. So we could kind of play our game about both of the people involved. So it's not really based on just the person that's speaking or just the person they're dating.
Love it. This is so creative.
Yeah. Okay.
Exciting.
I know. So you're dating someone for about 7 months. You find out they have what you consider a promiscuous past. They've slept with multiple people of all genders and even paid for sexual acts. Some of these things took place as recently as 4 months before you started dating. You start to have doubts about your relationship as you don't think that you'll be able to satisfy them, and you worry that they may not be loyal to your relationship. You think that if you knew this information before you started dating, you would not have chosen to date them. Is this a good reason to end a relationship with an otherwise lovely person?
So is the real issue is that they're promiscuous?
Yeah, basically the person in the situation was dating someone, found out that they had this promiscuous past, and they're just worried that this past is problematic and could affect how they are loyal to the current relationship now and in the future.
So it's almost like we need more information, right? So this person that's worried, are they wanting to have an exclusive monogamous relationship? Right.
Yeah. I would say for the point of the game, we could consider it monogamous, their desire.
Yeah. and they find out that this person has been promiscuous and hired sex workers. Is that right? Yeah. I think that it's fair for somebody who has really, I mean, that's such a good one because it's hard. I often give people the benefit of the doubt, and I want to really understand, like, before writing somebody off, because we're complex as humans. It's not black and white. It is so nuanced and oftentimes gray. So I would want to understand how did they find themselves there? Like, why were they promiscuous? Is it that they were like, that's where they saw their value? And so they kept having sex with people because they felt like that's all they had to offer? And if that was the case, just in that scenario, for that example, like, do they recognize that it's unhealthy to be getting, right, affirmation or love and acceptance through having random sex? Like, it's danger. There's so much risk involved. So I would want to know, how did they get there? And have they done any work around it? How do they think about it now? Because it also could be that they're a sex addict or they're a love addict. Like, I'm also a psychologist, right? So I'm so intrigued and curious just about human behavior. And I don't want to make assumptions. I just want to be curious. So I would have a conversation about it. Like, hey, I'm noticing the way you've shared about this or that, and putting some pieces together. I'm trying to really understand you. This is I don't want to make an assumption, but it feels like you were really promiscuous in the past recent years. And I'm just wondering, like, help me better understand you. And you're wanting to have a monogamous relationship with me now. I would leave it there and be like, share with me. What thoughts come to mind?
Wow, that's such a good
the
response.
response are really good.
Yeah. I think I would worry. Maybe I wouldn't worry, but I would wonder about how they ended up in those situations. I really appreciate how you believe that people are so complex and there's nuance to everything. We say that all the time.
All the time. Whenever we don't have an answer, we're like, well, it's nuanced.
Yeah.
But it really, I mean, so much about life, our life as humans, and relating and interact. It's nuanced, and we make assumptions because we want to, like, it scares us. Like, this is a situation where this person is afraid of, like, what if? What does this mean? Am I getting myself, my heart is out there. Am I going to get myself into a situation that I'm going to suffer from? Mm-hmm. Right? And then we fill in the blanks to protect ourselves. So if we don't ask questions, we're likely going to bounce. We're going to end it. We'll foreclose any opportunity without really understanding. And this could be somebody who is so deep and could be an amazing partner because they've been through it. I do believe in life, like, the more adversity and challenge and struggle that we go through and we overcome, and we don't allow it to define us, that we become like these amazing, interesting, complex beings that make us more fun and interesting to be in relationship with, as long as we've done our work.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
One thing you said reminded me of something we had talked about before, where you were saying you have all these questions and you don't have answers until you ask them. But in the meantime, you kind of fill in the blanks with things that you're just telling yourself. And we've talked about that in the past because it's so easy in dating when you are sitting there, like, questioning everything, spiraling. You just start telling yourself things and they're not true. And I remember this one episode, Rebecca was like, stop telling yourself things that aren't true. And it's like, that's such a good point because we all do that, especially in dating and even in, like, friendship, platonic relationships.
Definitely. And I think it's maybe easier in the short term to do that. But in the long term, it's just, you're going to build resentment. We talk about resentment a lot. And if this is someone that you see yourself potentially with, like you said, you'll just bounce and it could, be a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. So when for the first step to it, though, I think the first thing is to recognize that you're doing it because it's so automatic. You got to slow down enough to, like, be meta about it, to observe and go, oh, I'm doing that thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I struggled with in past relationships. And looking back, I know why. I mean, I wasn't as good at communication. I wasn't as confident in myself and my ability to tell someone what I want. And if I wasn't loving the way they were treating me, I was too scared to tell them that because I'm like, what if they leave? And it's like, well, that's actually, they would be doing me a favor. But
Exactly.
yeah, I just know the feeling of telling yourself all of these things, and it literally gets you nowhere. In fact, it only upsets you more in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so I would say this person, based off of Dr. Frankie, your advice, not hopeless, but it seemed like in the beginning you were kind of getting at, or possibly getting at, this still would be a valid reason to find yourself incompatible with someone.
I mean, I think that like one could see that that's risky. Like if you're somebody who, for example, has had a painful past, maybe with, being betrayed in your past relationship or relationships, it might be that you're like, you know what, my constitution as a result of my experience is such that I don't know that I can actually, or I want to challenge myself in this way. Like, I don't know that I want to sign up for my nervous system navigating this. And that would be fair.
Wow.
Basically.
That is such a good way to put that.
Yeah.
I love that.
But if you feel up for it and you can stay grounded enough and look to your support system to help you think through this, like get a therapist, somebody who's neutral and objective and understands the complexity of humans and that can be there with you as a support, it'll help you work through it and grow from it. You can work, you can become a better communicator. It's just, I love when we challenge ourselves and stretch ourselves, but you don't want to get to a point where you're totally overwhelmed and you get destabilized,
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Should we move on to another situation?
Yeah.
You're dating someone for about a month, but you haven't yet had sex. You haven't decided to be exclusive, but after they bring it up, you both agree that you're interested in making this a long-term commitment. The other person tells you they want to take it slow, which you agree to. You both agree to focus on this relationship without promising exclusivity. 2 days after this conversation, it's New Year's Eve. You talk about possibly meeting up that night and text throughout the night while at separate parties. You even text about possibly sleeping together for the first time that night. At 3 a.m., they text you that they're not going to be able to meet up because they're too drunk. You're okay with this and you understand that it's not in the cards. The following day, they call you and tell you that they had slept with someone else, which is the real reason they had texted that they couldn't meet up. They apologize and explain that they feel terrible about it and that they want to continue dating. It's not technically cheating because you weren't exclusive. Is the relationship doomed?
So it was discussed that they were not exclusive, that they were going to continue to date one another. So really, it's like living inside out. So this person's being fully transparent. Many would just not disclose that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they would be doing just the same thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, am I understanding? Okay. So in a way, you're like, what you're working with because this person is fully transparent. And it could happen with anybody where you're not exclusive. So is it doomed? I don't think it's doomed.
Wow. Okay. I like that perspective.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. I think in most cases, also depending on how old they are, I think plays a bit of a role too. But like, yeah, most people would not disclose that. Like they wouldn't care enough to. But the fact that he did, I think, means it's not doomed.
Yeah. And I wonder if the person who wrote this, like, if they really even care that they hooked up with someone else, or if it was more weird because they had just had this conversation where they were like, let's focus on the relationship. And the other person brought it up. And then the non-exclusivity thing, I kind of just think this is a lesson in if it's gonna upset you if other people or the person you're dating is hooking up with other people, let's just stop dancing around this. Like, we're going to focus on the relationship, but we're not going to be exclusive, but we both see it going somewhere long term. Like, it's all semantics at this point, and I feel like we just need to tell people what we want. And if they don't want the same thing, see, that's the thing though, then it comes to the point where it's like, if they don't want the same thing, you've only been dating for a month and you haven't had sex yet. So should you just write someone off who's like, I don't want the label just yet. I need to take it slow. Yeah. I don't know. This one's hard for me. I agree that it's not doomed, but I think I'd be really on the fence about trusting the person.
See, so this is where I think like we don't need to be so transparent early on in dating, because I think it muddies the waters, and it like engenders this feeling of distrust. If you just assume that we're all dating until we discuss exclusivity, you just make the assumption, because that's what's happening, right? We're dating that's what I always say, until there's a conversation about exclusivity, just assume people are dating each other. This is what my matchmaking clients will say to me. Well, what do I do? Now you're sending me out on a date with somebody else, but I really like so-and-so and I continue to date them and I feel weird. And it's like, don't feel weird. Just assume this is what I tell everybody, right? And then they're like, okay. I don't think it's helpful to be that transparent and share so much detail. I think it makes us feel jealous. It makes us feel threatened. At the core, most of us are afraid to be left and abandoned. It brings up all of that like wiring that's within all of us, regardless of our background.
Yeah.
That's such a good point. Looking at it with all the points that you just made in mind, the person really didn't do anything wrong. They never promised you exclusivity. They never promised you they were going to date you and not date anyone else. They just said, yeah, let's focus energy on this relationship. And you can focus energy in multiple places at once.
Right.
Don't assume, right? Don't assume just because they say let's focus on the relationship that means anything more than let's continue to get to know each other, right? Like don't assume. You can even say, what does that mean to you? So you really understand.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think what would make me not more weary, but another red flag is just the fact that they texted the person and said, I can't meet up because I'm too drunk, and then admitted later that was a lie. But also at the same time, how Dr. Frankie said, you kind of just know what you're getting with this person. Maybe that's a good thing, because a lot of people probably wouldn't be that transparent. So, okay, I think not doomed.
Yeah, I don't think they're doomed.
It really depends on the person, how they're experiencing what's unfolding before them. Some people may be like, depending on their constitution, may be like, you know what? Now I know what I'm working with. I appreciate it. And most people would have just lied, but so I'm just going to keep leaning into this because I feel like I'm okay. Like it's not totally throwing me off. I'm not getting dysregulated. I'm not going into a panic attack, right? It's not causing me to feel bad. Mm-hmm. Another person, it could cause them to feel really bad. Then that's probably maybe it's not the right person to be with, you know?
Yeah.
Love that. I feel like that was a conversation that kind of opened my mind a little bit, because I think if one of my close friends came to me and explained this situation, I might be like, oh, who cares? Dump him. But it's like, maybe we don't have to be that quick to drop people.
And it's so early.
Yeah. Because then at the same time, I think if my friend said all the details, except I was the one that hooked up with somebody else, should I like end it because now I'm not loyal? I would be like, no, you didn't promise exclusivity. You didn't make any promises to them.
Yep. And we are way too quick to reject people. This is like, it feels like a reject culture. Just this idea that there are endless options out there for us. And no need to spend too much time on this person because I see one red flag. Wow. I think it's hurting us. Yeah,
definitely.
This is an interesting situation because I can see this from both sides. You're dating someone for almost 2 years. This is the person you plan on marrying one day. The two of you talk about your future and plan to move in together soon. One night, while out with friends, an old friend of yours tells an unflattering story about you from over 10 years ago. It's a story that you laugh about in adulthood and wistfully say, oh, to be young again, or, oh, those crazy college nights. Everyone who hears it says the same except your partner. Something switches and they begin to treat you differently after, as they're clearly upset about the story. This goes on and they give you one-word responses and ignore you when they can, while telling you that everything is fine. A few days later, they send you a text saying, we're done. Are they acting too rash? We could maybe go based off of that, or I could tell you what the infamous story was.
I guess it kind of
Let's do 2 parts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go with the first. Let me first respond to the first part. Yeah, it's too rash. Like, I think, oh my gosh, so many thoughts. We all have a history. We all have a past. And we shouldn't be punished and shamed because of our past. How this person shows up today is what matters. They've been together 2 years. This person's judging their partner that they've been with 2 years, that they've been talking about living together, having a life together, building a life together. And now all of a sudden they heard a story that has caused them to completely devalue and reject this person that they supposedly love. It feels like an impulsive response, a knee-jerk response, where there'll be a lot of regret on the other side when they realize that they've just lost somebody that was incredibly important to them. So it feels impulsive and judgmental and shaming. And where's the compassion, really? Where's the understanding for like, okay, well, we all have histories. And even if it's like, I mean, now I'm curious, I can't wait to hear what it is. I want to see if my response will change. That's why I wanted you to hold off, because I want to see if it's going to change.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I think that if I didn't know the story, my perception would be, unless it's like an insanely egregious thing, like
They buried a dead body.
Like
right,
murder?
or like they killed someone, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I would think that that's a crazy reaction to have. So the short version of the story is you met someone at a bar and brought them home to hook up. It turned out they were too drunk and they couldn't perform. So you then go back to the bar, meet some other person, and bring them home and hook up with them instead.
Okay, that's like, it's not great.
Have most of us not sowed our wild oats and done really dumb shit? Like I have. I think many of us have.
Yeah.
Would I do that today? No. But when I was younger, maybe. So like, barring like murder, I think that, I don't know, you could come up with a story that would be murder or like some really terrible rape or assault. Yeah, I think not fair to judge.
Yeah, I was trying to see it from the other person's side, and I'm like, okay, maybe do they value sex in a way where they're like, this is extremely personal and meaningful and emotional, and they just can't see it any other way, and they think that any other perception of it is bad. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, you can think that, and you can also still accept that in the past your partner didn't see it that way, and maybe they see it more like that now, or maybe they still don't see it that way, but they love it with you, and that's what they're going with, and they're very loyal to you because of that. Like, I don't know. I also think this is crazy.
Yeah, that's really insane. To leave someone that you thought you were going to marry over something they did when they were, what, 21?
Yeah, in college. There's things that would elicit this response, and then there's, yeah, I had a one-night stand and it didn't happen, so I found somebody, or I wanted to have a one-night stand. This guy didn't work out, so I found that other guy or girl, whatever.
Also, like, I'm just thinking about, like, I bet they were highly intoxicated also, right? So people they don't have good judgment when they're intoxicated, and you're young and immature, and yeah, you find yourself in funny, strange, embarrassing situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to hark back to what you said earlier, I feel like he just did you a favor in a way, because imagine you married someone who was this judgmental and quick to shame you or, friends or whatever over stuff like that. So
Yeah,
agreed.
I wonder if the fact that he's so quick to, or I don't know if it's a guy. Sorry, I tend to project onto all of these situations, and I like men. So then anytime I'm talking about a partner, I'm like, the guy, but I'm like, no, it might not be a guy. But I do it every single story we read. I'm like, well, that guy. And I'm like, well, it might not be a guy.
Naturally.
I'm like, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So in one case, they're extremely judgmental and they're so quick to drop you. I would be like, after that long, you're going to drop me that fast and you're going to send me a text? Like, we're supposed to be moving in together in a few months and you're texting me, we're done. And I'm never going to see you again. Like, what? And then I can also see if they were to come back and ask for a second chance, it's like, well, is this who you are? Like, is this going to happen again? Like, do I have to tell you my entire past for you to, like, I don't know, decide now if I'm good enough for you? Like, I don't know. I just think that that's a crazy reaction.
Yeah. Like, that's a much bigger red flag than the story from when they were 21 or whatever. Because life's going to get way more complicated as we get older. Like, just, right, you end up maybe having a family or you're dealing with in-laws or, I mean, way more complicated. Mm-hmm. So if this person can't tolerate a story that happened a decade ago, and they're ready to bounce, it's just like, are they going to have the tolerance, the endurance, the patience, the empathy, the compassion to actually be in it with you? I don't know.
Right.
Yes, very important consideration, especially when you're planning on moving in and getting married. Yeah.
Did the two of you come up with these scenarios?
No.
No.
I was like, because they're good.
Yeah, I basically like search and pull together situations. Then I'm like, well, that could fit that theme. That could fit that theme. But I thought for these ones, I wanted to take out some of the irrelevant detail and like make them a little less personal so that people listening could kind of like put themselves in the situation. I took out the gender because I think that's interesting to think of like the listener and for all of us, like put ourselves in this situation and whoever it might be that you're dating, what decision would you make based off of that rather than gender, age, anything like that?
Yeah.
Yep. Because actually, and I've worked with heterosexuals, right? Gay men, lesbians, non-binary, fluid, all different sexual orientations. And at the end of the day, most of these dynamics that you're describing, regardless of how they identify, it's the same. It's not that different.
Right.
Yeah. And I think we can be judgy when it comes to gender. But I guess that's also just a personal experience because, like I was saying earlier, I am so quick to be like, oh, annoying guys that do blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, that's because I've only experienced annoying guys. I haven't dated annoying girls, but I'm sure they exist. And there's tons of wonderful guys, tons of wonderful girls, and tons of terrible of all gender as well. Like it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You go on a first date with someone, you have a nice time throughout the 3-hour conversation over drinks. However, you notice that they mentioned their ex fairly quickly upon meeting and mentioned them quite a few times. They let you know that they were their ex for a long time and recently broke up. Is this weird? Is this something to stop seeing someone over?
It should definitely get you more curious to learn, explore the idea that they may not fully be over their ex, but not to make the assumption that that's the case. It seems like they're probably not over their ex because they recently broke up and they keep bringing them up in conversation. So likely that's what it is, and they need more time to heal and grieve that relationship ending before they can actually be emotionally available to date somebody else. But I would, in a first date, I would give them another, if you like them and they seem like, you're like, well, I enjoyed my time. I'm curious to learn more about them. And there's this other piece that I want to better understand. So I would, on the second date, that would be my objective. I would try to explore that further.
I will say I went on a first date exactly like this a couple years ago. And at the end, he was like, I would love to see you again and whatever. Never heard from him again.
Really?
Theory, I'm like, he went right to his ex's apartment after that.
Probably.
Yeah. I'm like, it's totally fine. Like, not meant to be.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I think it would be a scale for me. Like if they talked about them, I really can't put a number on it, like 1 or 2 or 4 times over 3 hours, maybe I could brush it off. But then it like gets to a point where like the number gets too high and it's like, all right, well now something just seems strange. I remember years ago, I had dated someone for a while. And then when I was talking to new people, it's so natural to bring up your ex because you have so many memories with them and you spend so much time with them that like a lot of your daily life and your normal memories involve them. I remember I didn't want to bring up my ex to people like about very basically like, oh, I went to Hawaii. And instead of saying like, with my ex, I was like, the person I was with, or I would refer to them as like, I went surfing with my friend.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they don't need to know that it was my ex. Like, the person I was with isn't relevant. The only thing that's relevant is I wasn't alone, like, so I would always try to like do anything I could to not use the word my ex unless it was extremely relevant that I'm mentioning someone that I used to date. And that's the point of the story.
I got smart.
Yeah, I would. I feel like there's just a weird vibe that comes with it when it's like an unspoken rule. Just like don't talk about your ex if you don't have to, if they don't specifically ask.
And on a first date, that's a little, I'm like, there's so many things to talk about on a first date. Second date, I'm like, we can get to the past further along when it makes more sense and when I trust you and all those things. But like a first date, you're bringing up your ex, you have nothing else to say.
Yeah. No, that's when you're like supposed to be figuring out what makes this person tick.
Yeah.
Are they curious about me? Do we share similar values? What excites them in life? Does that align with the things that interest me and excite me in my life? That's what we need to be focusing on our first date.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if they're talking about their ex left and right, yeah, it's definitely a huge red flag.
Okay.
So I agree with you. So I think eliminate it. If you want to, obviously your ex could be very much a part of the fabric of your life for your last 5 years or 10 years if you had a long-term relationship. It's hard to not talk about them when you share about the things you've done or where you've traveled. And so I like your idea, Kelee, just to, we like my buddy, my friend. Yeah.
Yeah. I would feel for someone that dated someone for like 10 years or even like 5 and all your recent memories just involve them and your like so many life experiences because I definitely struggle. This is kind of irrelevant, but I went on a ski trip last year and I was with a friend of a friend and I brought up my boyfriend so many times because all of my recent memories involved him. And I actually apologized. I was like, I'm sorry. I feel like every single story I tell, I am talking about the two of us, and I feel like it's to the point where it's annoying. But I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, so many of these stories just involve him. So sorry if I'm being annoying. I literally apologized for it. But yeah, I would definitely feel for people that recently broke up and had all these happy memories, life experiences, and then were doing their best to like not mention it.
Definitely.
So I think I would try to keep an open mind if they had told me, if they kind of explained it in that way. And they were like, I really want to tell you about my experiences. I will say a lot of them involve my ex, but that's not what I look back on. I look back on the adventure, the travel or whatever. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't think hopeless, but I think if it's in a certain way on the first date, I might be a little weirded out by it.
Definitely weirded out. Yeah.
That's fair. And if it's like throughout the whole conversation, when you check in with yourself at the end of the date thinking, do I want to see this person again? You probably won't want to see them again. You're not going to be curious about, learning more about them. You're going to walk away feeling like you didn't feel great on that date. So you're probably going to opt out on going on another date with them.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to hear about your ex. I want to go on someone that wants to talk about themselves and me.
But imagine it was like borderline, right? They mentioned them a few times. You're like, I had fun. They're attractive. Like, I would be open to going out again and seeing what it's like the second time, like if it's less clear.
Yeah, that's where I feel like the interesting debate lies, because obviously if you go on a date with someone and the only thing they talk about is their ex, of course, red flag, don't see them again. But I think it's interesting to debate that line of like, well, what's the number of times they can mention their ex before I like clock it? And then what's the number of times they can mention their ex compared to how many good qualities they have and how compatible we are? Like, it really is like a sliding scale. And I think that's where it gets interesting because, if everything is perfect about them and you're like 90% compatible with like so many life things, but then they mention their ex like 3 times, I'd be like, okay, 3 times, like I can deal with that. But then it's like 5, 7.
Totally.
It's like, what is it going to take for you to like forget about that and like give them another chance?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much of like just being in the moment with them and feeling it. How do we come up with an arbitrary number?
Yeah. It's totally depends on the vibe, I guess.
Definitely.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, if the package that they offer, like what it seems to be is like pretty amazing, then you're just like, okay, I can make the exception. They brought it up 5 times, the ex up, and I could see just bargaining with yourself, right? Like,
yeah.
Which I feel like you couldn't. Maybe it isn't unhealthy bargaining because I could totally see myself going home and being like, okay, now here are the 5 times he mentioned the ex. Like, what was the story? What was the reason? Why was it relevant? Did he need to say ex? Like, is he still thinking about her? I would like dissect it in my head, which maybe that's not healthy, but I think it is healthy to weigh your options and like all the good things about them.
Well, would you call your friends and then get their opinion, or would that make it even more complicated and harder you'll get into this indecision spiral?
Yeah, I'm always wary of getting too many friends' opinions on the in the early stages. You got to figure things out a little bit on your own, I think.
Yeah, I think to be completely honest, if I saw this person in my head as like, oh my God, they could be perfect. This could be my husband. Like we vibed so well. I might just leave that detail out to my friends. I might just keep it to myself and then tell them everything else. And then maybe if it's relevant later, I'll be like, well, one thing I did notice, but I was too scared to say it. He talks about his ex nonstop. So I think I might leave that out.
I think it would behoove you to maybe leave it out if you're interested in learning more about this person, because your friends are going to be protective. They're going to tell us what we want to hear, and they don't want us to get hurt. So they're probably going to be like, oh, no, kick him to them. See, I did it too. Look at that. Kick them to the curb. Forget it.
Yeah.
Steer clear. Go find somebody else.
Yeah. I do think like as friends too, there's like this weird standard when it comes to being quick to reject people, because I think like for ourselves, we shouldn't be so quick. Like we can hear people out. We can give people a second chance. Like if you're like 50-50 about seeing them again and you're not super busy, like sure, like low stakes date, who cares? But then when it comes to your friend, I feel like we're all so protective of our friends, and it's your friends that are so quick to be like, dump them, they don't deserve you. And it comes from a place of love and like you deserve everything. But I feel like, Rebecca, we've talked about this in the past when it comes to dating, and our friends, like especially your friends in a relationship, they just like sometimes they just like don't get it when you're like out in the dating world.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, you just don't need another opinion sometimes.
Agreed.
Yeah. I feel like that was a good one to end on. Oh my God, that was so fun.
Yes.
I feel enlightened.
Yes.
You two are so cute.
I love it.
I'm so used to a different format that this was like really fun and exciting.
Yeah.
You know, the typical format, right? Have the doctor on and talk about what I do, and you know what I mean? Typical. So this was so fun. Yeah, anytime you want to have me back on, and I'd be happy to do it.
Oh my God, thank you.
Good.
That would be so fun. Yes, I'd love to do a part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to gather more like difficult situations where I'm like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Or maybe my perception of this is toxic and I need to hear what a professional would say.
Right now, one that I think it's important for us to think about is like politics when it comes up on a date or like in a relationship. There's all these ways in which we're like polarized and rejecting left and right. And I think it's really harming us and isolating us, causing us to have depression and anxiety. So that's one that's coming up a lot right now.
Part 2.
So one scenario, come up with a scenario like that.
Those are such interesting debates, because I feel like what I was kind of getting at earlier is like, if you come to someone with this crazy, like, I believe X, Y, and Z, they believe A, B, and C, like, could we be compatible? It's like, well, probably not. But then it gets interesting when you're like, well, I believe A and B and Z, and they believe X and Y and C, like, are we compatible? And it's like, that's where it becomes interesting. So I do think it would be fun to talk about that.
Yeah. Good times, you guys.
Okay, well, we'll let you go. Thank you so much. This was so fun. I would love to chat with you again.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Have an awesome rest of your day. Where are you, in LA?
We're in Philly.
Oh, I'm from Manhattan. I used to hang out in Philly.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'd go see music in Philly when I was in high school. I went to boarding school in New Jersey.
Wow.
So I would hop on the train and just go hang out in Philly.
Do you know the venues you used to go to? What was your, do you remember?
My God, no.
Okay.
No, I was in high school.
Rebecca's a big music girl.
They had a lot of good music in Philly and also beautiful art. I used to go to art shows.
Yeah. There's a lot of culture. It's cool.
Very cool. Yeah. All right.
Thank
Good
you
to meet you
so much. You too.
You're welcome.
Have a good night. Bye. She's so cool.
That was so fun.